Today I'm turning 3 CNC DIY Factory kits and frames, as well as some offcuts from our laser cutter, into 4 completely different vintage-inspired farmhouse-style decor pieces. And all of them were inspired by those warm shades of midsummer yellow and the beautiful decoupage papers found in Sonnet's Garden Blooms August Maker's Box. I'm Cindy, my husband is Chris. Welcome to CnC DIY Factory, where we love creating upcycling and making beautiful home decor from wood. For this first project, I'm taking some of the offcuts from our oval frame kits that we make here in our shop, and I'm going to use them to create a beautiful plaque with a nod to the country life. I'm starting with painting the frame piece, the back of the oval piece, and both sides of the easel pieces with the DIY paint weathered wood that was in this month's Maker's Box. On the front side of the oval piece, I'm using the second DIY paint color from the Maker's Box, Vintage Linen. Each month, Sonnet includes 2 DIY paint colors and curates them to coordinate with the papers and the napkin. I will be using the decoupage napkin on this project, and my preferred method of working with the napkins on a flat surface is the iron method. I use the Mod Podge and I lay down a good layer over my surface, then I dry it with my heat gun, or you could let it dry on its own. This beautiful napkin with the warm yellow flowers is perfect as a background. I need to make sure I have all the extra plies removed so that I am only working with the top layer. Then I'll place my napkin over the dry Mod Podge and position it where I want it. Next, I'll take a piece of parchment paper and place that over the napkin to keep from scorching it, and I'll use my little craft iron to heat up the Mod Podge and adhere the napkin to the surface. Then I can take my finger sander and sand off the excess napkin, leaving a clean, crisp edge. Until this napkin is sealed in, it is still very fragile and it can be torn. So I'm going to use the Wise Owl varnish in matte finish, and with a light hand, add a top coat over the napkin to protect it. If you know me, you know I love to use stencils in my projects, and I have a pretty big collection. I found this essential stencil in my supplies from the Stencil of the Month Club from February 2026. This is called Floral Barnyard Animals, and I'm going to use the phrase raised on country sunshine. I am using an Essential Stencil domed stencil brush and the DIY weathered wood. I like to use a swirling motion when I'm stenciling, but you can apply the paint with a makeup sponge and pounce it on. Just make sure you offload most of your paint so you do not have bleed through. Next, I will use a detail brush and paint in the bridges left after stenciling. This connects the letters and lines and makes it look a little more handwritten. I have some previously poured casting using the fast cast resin from the Autumn Cottage mold by IOD. I was really happy to find this swag of wheat because what could be more perfect for this? I'm going to paint this casting with one of the 2 fusion mineral paints from Sonnet's Maker's Box this month. This color is Buttermilk Cream. While the paint is drying, I will sand over the frame and the easel pieces with my finger sander to add a little distressing. And because the weathered wood is DIY paint, it needs to be sealed in. So I'll apply 1 good coat of the Wise Owl varnish in matte finish to the front and back of all the easel, the frame, and the oval pieces. And once they are all dry, I can assemble the plaque. A wood glue would work for this, but I am using the Stick Fast CA glue in the thick formula. Don't use a thin formula glue, or you might glue your fingers to your project. To adhere the casting to the piece, my favorite glue to use is the Tight Bond Quick and Thick. I'll add the glue to the back, and then I'll spread the glue all the way around to the edges in a thin layer. Once that glue has set, then I'll take the DIY clear wax and apply it over the casting as well as the frame and the center oval. Then I'll follow that up with the Howard's Chalk Teak Wax in dark to bring out all the details of the wheat and add a bit of distressing. Then I'll use a lint-free towel and wipe back the excess dark wax. The clear wax allows me to wipe back the dark wax as much as I want to, and it leaves the dark wax in the details of the wheat. To assemble the easel, you simply slide one piece into the other, and this midsummer vintage-inspired farmhouse project is ready to display. Now, I grew up listening to country music, and when I look at this, I can actually hear Dottie West singing. This piece is just so sweet. In this project, I'm using one of our farmhouse-style round interchangeable frames with easel. The center of this frame is double-sided, so you can have it every day on one side and seasonal on the other. This is on our website, and I will have it linked in the description box below if you want to check it out. For this inside round piece, I'm using the second Fusion Mineral paint from the Maker's Box, and this is called Cobblestone. I'm painting both sides of this piece with one coat of paint. This outside circle is the frame for the center round piece. I'm also painting this in the Cobblestone color, and I will only paint one side of it as well as the inside edge and the outside edge with one coat. This large round piece is what gives this frame its farmhouse style. There are grooves scored into the surface to resemble shiplap. I'm painting both sides of this in the buttermilk cream from Fusion. The easel that comes with this frame is the same style as we used in the previous project, but this one I am painting in the DIY little black dress. And once the paint is dry, I'll seal it in with the same Wise Owl varnish in matte finish. Every month, Roycycle Treasures creates 2 exclusive decoupage papers for Sonnet's Maker's Box. This paper is called Summer Garden Ephemera, and it is a masterboard, and it's bursting with midsummer yellows, florals, birds, along with that beautiful typography. I'm going to use 2 small sections of this for the interchangeable centerpiece of my frame. I will be using the DIY liquid patina as my decoupage medium for this project. Once I have the paper lined up where I want it, I will fold back half of it and lay down an even layer of the liquid patina. Then I'll spritz my paper to relax the fibers and gently smooth out the paper. I work from the center out, making sure I smooth out any wrinkles or air bubbles. I'll work in sections until I have the entire paper decoupaged to my piece. Then I'll add another layer of the liquid patina over the top to seal it in. Once it's dry, I'll add a second piece of decoupage paper to the other side of this round. Once both sides are dry, I will use my finger sander and sand off the excess paper, leaving a clean, crisp edge. The only part that needs assembly is this frame piece. The large round piece has a circle scored in it for easy placement. I am using the Stick Fast CA glue, but a wood glue would work as well. This buttermilk cream yellow is beautiful, but I want this piece to have a little more age to it. So I'm going to apply the DIY clear wax to the entire piece. Then I'll follow that up with the Howard's Chalk Teak Wax in dark, and then I'll wipe off the excess with a lint-free towel. This has the perfect amount of age to it. Now all it needs is the centerpiece, which just pops right in. This frame is so versatile with the interchangeable center. You could have multiple centerpieces to switch out year-round. Let me know what you think of this farmhouse-style round frame in the midsummer yellows. For this project, you might think I'm creating a Christmas snow globe, but not just yet. I am using the IOD snow globe mold along with art resin in clear. This resin is a long curing resin that takes about 12 to 24 hours to cure before you can remove it from the mold. It is measured in a 1-to-1 ratio of part A and part B, and it must be mixed for no less than 3 minutes with a slow stirring motion so as not to incorporate a lot of bubbles. I like to use a timer to make sure that I am mixing my resin for at least 3 minutes. Now, once I have the resin and the hardener thoroughly mixed together, I'll slowly pour the resin into the mold and use my craft stick to pull the resin to the edges of the mold. If you pour it too quickly, you can have overpour, and even though that's not really a big deal, it does add more steps to clean up around the edges. Next, I'm going to mix up some Sweet Pickins milk paint. In each maker's box, Sonnet curates a milk paint color to go with the theme of the box. This month, we have Lemon Drop. Milk paint is also a 1-to-1 ratio of paint powder to water, and I like to use a milk frother to mix up my milk paint. For this project, I am pulling out one of our CNC favorites. This is a farmhouse-style maker's frame in the 4.5 by 4.5 inch size. I created these maker's frames with a 1-inch frame wood, and they come in multiple sizes. I designed these especially for the makers and creators with the backer piece separate from the frame. This makes it much easier to create mixed media pieces on the back piece and then add it into the frame when it's finished. And just in case you didn't know, Chris cuts each frame by hand in our shop. Since this is raw wood, I want to add a coat of the DIY paint to it before I apply the milk paint. So I'll paint the entire frame and both sides of the backer board with one coat of the DIY vintage linen from the maker's box. Once the DIY paint is dry, then I'll apply the milk paint. If I hadn't added the DIY paint first, the milk paint would have soaked right into that raw wood, and it would have been really difficult to get the milk paint to crackle and craze. I like to use a heat gun to quickly dry the milk paint to help that crackling and crazing happen. Then I sand everything with a 220 grit sandpaper, which makes the milk paint have this buttery smooth surface. My resin has cured enough to where I can now pull it from the mold. I'm only using the rounded globe for this project, so these other castings can be set aside for other projects. Connie at the Painted Photographer creates 2 exclusive hand-drawn and painted rice papers for each maker's box. This one is called Home Beyond the Gate, and it will fit perfectly in this globe. I'll trim this piece to fit, and then using the Fusion, Decoupage, and Transfer Gel as my decoupage medium, I will reverse decoupage this smaller image to the back of my clear resin casting. I will carefully line up the globe over the image and then lay the wet side onto the rice paper to pick it up. Then I'll add more decoupage gel over the back of the paper to seal it in. Once it's dry, I'll trim off the excess paper at the bottom of the globe and sand off the excess around the edges of the globe. And to make sure the image pops through the resin, I'll apply one coat of the vintage linen paint to the back of the rice paper. For the bottom of the globe, I'm applying one good coat of the DIY little black dress, making sure to get into all of the swirls and curves. And because this is DIY paint, it needs to be sealed or it can be reactivated if it gets wet. I am using the Bright Tone Clear Gloss Sealer, and I am applying one coat. Then I'm going to go over the high points with the DIY Golden Rule Decor Wax to add just a bit of glam and to bring out all those beautiful details. I think my vision is starting to come together. This is the second Roycycled Treasures exclusive paper, and it has two designs on it. This is called Vintage Rose Ticking, with the stripes on one half and a light ticking with roses on the other. I will cut out a small piece from the corner of the stripes for the backer piece to my frame. Then, using the Fusion Decoupage and Transfer Gel, I'll follow the same process of decoupaging this paper to the backer board as I have in the previous projects. While the backer board is drying, I need to seal in the milk paint. My favorite sealer for the milk paint is the Sweet Pickins Oil Wax in Dark. Make sure you shake it up really well and then brush it onto the milk paint. This needs to sit for about 10 to 15 minutes to let that oil wax soak into the milk paint. Once it is set long enough, you simply wipe off the excess with a lint-free towel. I like to use gloves to keep from leaving any fingerprints behind. And if you think you have all of the excess wax wiped off, go over it one more time because you might find that there is more you could not see. Now this is what makes the Farmhouse Maker's frame stand apart from other frames. When you have your backer board completed, you simply set it into the channel on the back of the frame and either glue it in, staple it in, or use a frame tacker like the one I have here to secure the backer into the frame. Now my frame is put together and I can add my globe. I am using Titebond Quick and Thick, and I'll spread the glue to the edges of the globe to ensure a good seal, and then I'll set it down into the frame. Now that the oil wax has had a little time to cure, it is lighter than I want, so I'm adding some of the Howard's Chalk Teak Wax in Dark to add more depth to the frame and really make the crackle and chippiness stand out. The pictures just do not do this piece justice. I wish you could see this in person. This is down home country and I love it. In this project, I'm using another DIY kit from our website, and it is one of my favorites. This is the Vintage Sewing Machine DIY kit. This is a layered kit, and I'm excited to show you how you can incorporate the papers and paints from Sonnet's Maker's Box into this kit. This frame has a score line around the inner edge, allowing you to create a two-tone frame if you want. I am using the DIY little black dress on the inside edge of this frame. Around the outer edge, I'm using the DIY weathered wood from the Maker's Box. Our DIY kits are cut from 1/8 inch or 1/4 inch medium density fiberboard. MDF has a consistent composition throughout the panel, giving us clean, detailed cuts and smooth surfaces that are ready for you to paint or stain. This kit comes with all of these vintage sewing tools, and the actual sewing machine has so much detail in it, it makes it fun and easy to create. I'm going to start with the actual sewing machine, and I'm going to paint that in the cast iron by Fusion Mineral Paint. Now you could use any type of paint for these kits that you want. All of the pieces are scored for ease of placement, and you can still see the lines through the paint. Once I have the sewing machine painted, I'm going to go through and paint all of the pieces that I think would have the cast iron look to them. These letters are really hard to hold on to while I'm painting, so I'm putting them on a sticky board with some painter's tape upside down to hold them in place. Then I'll use a makeup sponge and I'll pounce the paint onto the letters. For the lighter pieces of the sewing machine, I'm using Algonquin by Fusion. This is a gray taupe color, and I think it will pair nicely with the cast iron. I like to use the makeup sponges to apply the paint because it saves me from having to wash brushes, and when I'm done with one color, I can just trim off the used piece and have a fresh sponge for the next color. Sometimes it's easier to paint the entire piece with the base color and then go over the detailed areas with the actual color for that area. That's what I'm doing right now with the Algonquin for the areas that would be a lighter color or a light metal on the machine. I find painting these kits is so relaxing. It may look overwhelming at first, but once you sort out the pieces, it is so enjoyable. Please stay with me. I'm going to show you how to incorporate the Maker's Box papers into this kit, and it's going to really pull it together. For the vintage tape measure, I am using the Fusion Buttermilk Cream from the Maker's Box, as well as the Algonquin at the ends. The cute little tomato pincushion is getting the Fort York red, and the little leaf on top is getting the Manor green. Both of these paints are Fusion Mineral paints that I have had from previous Maker's Boxes. For this cute little spool of thread, I am using some watered down chocolate by Fusion, and the thread color is Homestead Blue. Both of these were also from previous Maker's Boxes. Now that I have all of the pieces of the sewing machine and the tools painted, I can work on the backer board. I'm applying one coat of the Cobblestone by Fusion from the Maker's Box. Here's another look at that second paper from Roycycled Treasures in this month's Maker's Box. When I saw this floral pattern with the really faint ticking behind them, it took me back to the kitchen in our home I grew up in, and it reminded me of my mom, and she's the one that actually taught me how to sew. So I knew I had to make this kit today. I cut out a piece of that floral print to fit the back of the board, and I'm using the Fusion decoupage and transfer gel to decoupage this paper to the board. Now comes the real fun part. We get to put it all together. I am using the Stick Fast CA glue in the thick formula. Please do not use the thin super glues. You will stick your fingers to your pieces. Ask me how I know. I start with the frame and apply the glue around the entire back side and then carefully line it up over the backer board. Next, I'll add the CA glue to the back of the sewing machine, and I'll line it up as closely as I can to the scored lines. You can still see them through the paper if you look closely. Then I'll add the CA glue to the bar that goes along the bottom of the machine, and I'll make sure to line up the edges so it's all even. I've gone ahead and attached all of the pieces but this last one to the sewing machine. It's really easy to follow the scored lines for each piece. And as you can see here, I've already attached the tomato pin cushion, the scissors, and the vintage tape measure. Now I'm attaching the spool of thread. And last but not least, I am attaching the letters to the bar at the bottom of the sewing machine. The CA glue is thick, but it can still make your pieces move if you don't wait until each piece is completely set before letting go. My G in vintage shifted after I let go of it, and then the glue was set so quickly that I couldn't move it back into place. So this piece is perfectly imperfect. I love this kit, and I hope you do too. Let's take one final look at all of the pieces from today's August Maker's Box. All of these pieces will be up for auction on the next Maker's Box Edition raid train coming up on August 19th if you want them for your home. I hope this video gave you some inspiration to create some yellow and vintage farmhouse decor pieces using DIY kits, frames, or what you have on hand and the curated items in Sonnet's Maker's Box. The kits and frames from this video can be found on our website at CnCDIYFactory.com. If you want to have your own Maker's Box delivered to your door every month, I'll have a link in the description box below where you can skip the wait list to sign up. And don't forget to check out the link to watch all of the creatives in Sonnet's membership group who create videos every month to provide more inspiration. And if you haven't already, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and hype this video. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today, and until next time, keep practicing random acts of crafting, and I'll see you in the next DIY. Until then, here are some DIY videos to inspire your creativity.